if there's anybody who wants to go to school in America, like, yes, it's expensive, but like, you know, I feel like if it's for your education, like, it's worth it. There are so many scholarships that are offered at schools, so many more than people realize. There's scholarships for like everything. Na primjer, ako bi otišli u Harvard, moglo bi da ide u Harvard, ali nemaju dovoljno para da ideju u Harvard, onda naučiju law, ali they're gonna learn the exact same things that they would learn in Harvard. You know, it's not like they're gonna learn any less. Da, jeste kao na filmu, znači to je skroz kao na filmu.
Dobrodošli u još jednu epizodu Sotirov podcasta. Mnogo vam hvala što gledate emisije, hvala vam na svim lepim komentarima. Ukoliko vam se dopadaju moji videi, molim vas se subscribe-ujte na ovaj YouTube kanal i podelite video sa svojim prijateljima. Vidimo se za nekoliko trenutaka. Dobrodošli u Sotirov podcast. Zdravo svima, moje ime je Meri, a vi slušate i gledate Sotirov podcast. Tema današnje emisije su Studije u Americi, a moja gošća u studiju je moja draga prijateljica i diplomirani psiholog Talia Tatalović. Zdravo Talija, kako si?
Zdravo Mari, kako si?
Dobro sam, hvala. Talija, ja tebe znam od kada si se rodila. Naše porodice se znaju baš dugo, već jedno 3 generacije, ja mislim, kumovi smo. Drago mi je što ćemo danas da pričamo o tvojim studijama u Americi, ali možda prvo da kažemo svima da si ti zapravo rođena u Americi. Gde si tačno rođena?
Rodila sam u Santa Monici, Kaliforniju, ali sad živim u Virginiju.
Da, tako da zapravo tebi je američki engleski maternji jezik, ti lepo govoriš i srpski, ali da najavim odmah slušalcima i gledaocima da ćeš tokom razgovora nekad pričati na srpskom, nekad engleskom, kako god je tebi lakše. Tvoja mama je psiholog, baka, tvoj deda je bio psiholog i ti si završila studije psihologije u Americi. Pored očigledne genetike, zašto si ti odlučila da studiraš baš psihologiju?
Pa najviše baš puno, ne znam kako se kaže, naravno, izvini, molim, to je zbog moje pola srpski i pola engleski.
You can tell me in English.
Well, life is very difficult a lot of the time. A lot of the time you go through many different situations that bring about trauma, and you don't have anyone, you feel like you don't, osjećaš se kao da nemaš nikoga ko može da ti pomogne za tvoje probleme i za sve tvoje trauma, ali i zbog toga htjela sam ja da budem jedna od te osobe koji može da bude tu za ljudi koji osjećaju kao da nemaju nikoga, da im pomognem.
Talija, tema naše današnje emisije su Studije u Americi. Pa da možda krenemo od samog početka, ti si nedavno završila psihologiju, kako je izgledao upis na tvoj fakultet?
So it's not like you necessarily have like an exam that you need to take. For example, if you're going straight from high school into college, you normally will be, it depends. So you can either send in a letter, essentially, stating exactly why you want to be in the school, like what your goals are, and, you know, kind of your life story, basically. And then they'll accept you based on whether they like your letter and whether you have good grades. But if you go into university from community college, so like you go after high school to a community college and then you decide to go to university. In community college, you don't need to do anything except get a degree, like your associate's degree, get your associate's degree, and technically you don't necessarily need to get your associate's degree, you just need to get a certain amount of credits, and then basically once you get those credits, you can get an automatic transfer from that school into whatever university that is tied to or whatever universities, plural, are tied to the community college, or, that the community college accepts, essentially, as part of their thing. Because there are community colleges that are connected to universities that are outside of the state, not just the ones that are within it. But of course, it just depends on what community college it is, because some will be accepting of more universities than others.
E sad, ovde fakulteti najčešće traju osnovne studije 4 godine i onda 1 godina master. Tako je, na primjer, meni bilo kada sam završila svoje osnovne i master studije davno, ali naravno ima i drugih varijacija, recimo 3+2, na primjer. Koliko je trajao tvoj fakultet u Americi i zanima me kako su organizovana tvoja predavanja i ispiti u toku akademske godine? Na primjer, ovde su ispiti jednosemestralni ili dvosemestralni vrlo često. Znam da je kod tebe u Americi drugačije i mnogo praktičnije.
Basically, it starts in August and ends in December. That's like one semester. And then there's another semester from January to May. And in the first half of the semester, you get a bunch of material that you're supposed to study, and you take notes, of course, and everything. And then in the middle of the semester, they give you a big exam that covers everything that you learned in that first part of the semester. And then in the very end of the semester, you get a final exam that covers everything from the last part, but of course it depends on the professor, because sometimes they might put stuff from the beginning of the semester in that final exam. But the exams are only a percentage of your grade. They're basically like, sometimes they can be like 40% of your grade, 30% of your grade, whatever the case. And then the rest of the percentages are projects, homework, quizzes, and things like that. But that's basically how it's sort of structured, essentially. But it's always one semester for a class. A class doesn't last an entire year, only one semester. Ako počinješ direktno iz srednje škole u university da dobiješ kao bachelor's, na primjer, to će da ti bude 4 godine. Ali, na primjer, ako ideš u community college i dobiješ associates prije bachelor's, onda moraš 2 godine za associates i onda još 2 godine za bachelor's. Znači, ako ideš odmah do university, možeš da preskočiš totalno associate's degree.
Mm-hmm.
Da.
Kakvi su tvoji utisci sa fakulteta psihologije? Šta ti se sviđa, a šta ne?
U university moraju baš protokol da pratiju i više nego što su u community college. U community college je više kao they lead the class the way that they want to, which I like sometimes, but I prefer the organization more, like the sort of set, you have to do this, and this, and you can't do this, and this is not allowed, and this is allowed. I like structure like that. I don't really like it when, I have a bunch of different professors who all have different ways of conducting their classes, because then sometimes I forget, oh wait, was this the professor that said this was okay to do? Or was this the professor that said this was not okay to do? So I think that's pretty much like the only thing that I didn't necessarily like about community college. I will say I also don't like the fact that community college is so small. And also, you don't have on-campus living, so it's not very much of a community necessarily. They do have, imaju kao, like, clubs and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's like very divided, I guess. It's very hard to meet people or like be friends with people unless you know them from like high school. Like, it's hard to just make friends, really, but in university, I feel like it's much easier to make friends because there's already that built community of people living there, and then like, meeting them in your classes, you're able to not only meet them, but then meet people that they know within the community, and it's much easier to make friends and to be social. And that's one of my biggest things, is I'm a very social person. I love talking and making friends. So when I'm not able to make friends or really be social with a lot of people, it kind of makes me less motivated or like, and less happy in school, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Zanima me kakvi su profesori, kakav je odnos sa profesorima, da li su dostupni, da li odgovaraju na mailove, da li te savetuju kada ti treba neka pomoć oko gradiva?
There are some professors that are nicer than others, some that are more lenient and some that are more strict. It really depends on just how the professor likes to conduct their class. But when it comes to like, ako imaš pitanje ili nešto ne znaš ili baš si kao stuck na nešto, kao ne možeš ništa da...
Negde je zapelo.
Yeah, you can't figure it out. Your professor will always be there, whether it be over email or whether it be going to them in person. The professors are also obligated to have office hours. So you can email your professor and say, hey, I want to come in during your office hours so I can talk to you about this, this, and this. And they'll say, okay, we'll meet at this time during my office hours. They have certain amount of hours throughout, like not every day. Some professors have them on specific days. But of course, like if, for example, there are students who work or they cannot make it to their office hours during those days, they can always coordinate with their professor and say, hey, can we meet over video chat, or can we meet in person on this day, because or on one of these days, because I have work or I have this and this on these days and can't make it. They're very open when it comes to helping students, but then again, it really very much depends on the professor you have, because there are some professors that are, a little more not as reliable, I guess you could say.
Old-fashioned.
Yes, they're very old-fashioned, and it's hard to sort of get them to help necessarily. I mean, of course, when it comes to professors like that, students have the right to complain to the higher-ups, and then the higher-ups will talk to those professors and say, hey, okay, you need to sort of fix what you're doing, because if you don't, then students are going to keep complaining. There obviously is enough students that are complaining about this and this, and that needs to either stop or be fixed, basically. So it's a very good, I will say, especially in university, it's a very good system. It's not as good in community college, I will say, because remember how I said earlier how it's there's not as much structure in community college, because professors are much more different from each other. They all have very different ways of teaching, because remember how I said university has a better structure of like professors need to do this, 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 and this, and students have to do this, 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 and this, and they can't do this, this, and this, and this. But in community college, it's like some professors will say, you can do this and you can do this, but you can't do this and you can't do this. And then another professor will say the exact opposite. You cannot do this, you cannot do this, but you can do this and you can do this. So it's that's like lack of structure in community college, I would say, makes relationships with your professor a lot harder, because it's not easy to sort of it's not easy for them to tailor themselves to the students as much, because of the fact that they teach so differently than professors in university.
Talija, u Americi postoje privatni i državni fakulteti. Najpoznatiji fakulteti u Americi za koje smo mi ovde čuli su privatni fakulteti. Reci mi, koje su glavne razlike privatnih i državnih fakulteta u Americi?
Trebaš da platiš mnogo više da budeš u privatne škole, na primjer kao Harvard i Yale i takve kao law schools. And the way that those private schools work, they all work off of what's paid from tuition. So all the tuition that gets paid is what is used to fund the schools in general. That's why it's so expensive. Za državne škole, to je government funded. Like, it's all funded by literally the entire government, and tuition goes and helps it. And I forgot, also for private schools, not just tuition, also donations. So like when families donate money to the school, that they also work off of, like they also like live off of that, basically. Public universities, they basically just work off of, like, they all live off of government money, basically. And the tuition does help, of course, but, like, it's mainly, they stand because of the government, of course. But it's still always been so expensive just because that's, I mean, America.
Pričala sam sa nekim Amerikancima i rekli su mi da su godinama otplaćivali taj studentski dug. Tako.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is like, if you are lucky enough to have somebody who can pay for your school, you should be very, very grateful, because there are people who will be living their entire lives, like all the way until they're very, very old, paying off student loans, because student loans are also technically what colleges live off of, and how they fund a lot of things is by just making loans go up and up and up. Regardless of the fact that they give the money, they still make it higher and higher.
Sem ovog finansijskog dela koji si sad objasnila kako funkcioniše, da li postoje razlike, na primjer, u kvalitetu nastave na državnim i privatnim fakultetima?
Ja bih rekla da privatna i državne škole ni jedna ni druga nije bolja kao jedna ili...
U kvalitetu.
Pa da, u kvalitetu. Pa mislim, možda jeste u privatna škola, može ljudi da kaže da je više kvalitetna samo zato što plaćaš mnogo, mnogo više. To je sve, to zavisi na tvoj talent, znaš. Na primjer, ako ideš u Harvard, naravno imaju kao lepa je škola, stara je škola i imaju kao puno pare, naravno. Ali ti si tu zato što ti imaš taj talent, ali u university možeš ti da isto imaš puno talent u nekom smjeru. Kao, na primjer, ja bih rekla da imam dosta talent u psihologiju. Ne moram da idem baš u privatna škola, da budem kao privatna škola za psiholog, ne znam nijako to postoji. Možda jeste, postoji 100%. Ali ne treba mi to da budem kao successful. Znam da mi ne treba to. Neko ko je u običnu kao državna škola, ko želi da radi law, na primjer, ako bi otišli u Harvard, moglo bi da ide u Harvard, ali nemaju dovoljno pare da ideju u Harvard, onda naučiju law, ali they're gonna learn the exact same things that they would learn in Harvard. You know, it's not like they're gonna learn any less, or they're not going to be as successful. I feel like both of them, it really just depends on the person and what they want for their lives and for their education. I really don't think it's fair to say that one is better than the other, or that, you know, you're going to be more successful going to a private school than you are going to a regular university, because I feel like you have an equal chance of success being in either, or it just depends on the person and what you want to do with your future, basically. Yeah.
Kako funkcioniše sistem ocenjivanja studenta u Americi? U Srbiji, na primjer, imamo ocene na fakultetu od 5 do 10, tako da ako dobiješ 5 pao si, a prolazne ocene su od 6 kao najniža do 10 kao najviša ocena.
To zavisi na državu. Ima neke države koji, ovo će biti, prve 4 su iste za svake države. A, B, C, D, to ti je 5, 4, 3, 2, a jedinicu zavisi na državu. Može da bude ili E ili F. Onda kao E or F. Znači kao F je su to napravili kao da bude failure. To kao, like that's what it stands for. Ali ima neke države koje nisu to volile i onda zbog toga su rekli ajde da napravimo da bude kao A, B, C, D, E umjesto A, B, C, D, F. Onda kao I, to je najmanji, naravno, to je jedinica da dobiješ. Samo da ne bude kao you're a total failure, znaš, onako da i najviše dece koji su elementary, middle school, to je kao najviše zbog njih, onako da ne osjećaju kao da su failure zato što su dobili F, znaš.
Da, gubitnici.
Da bude više kao, like, you know, thinking more so about the minds of younger kids and how they will feel when they see a big F, to think that they themselves are a failure for getting a big F on their report card. So the E is basically to say, like, don't worry, like, yeah, sure, you got a bad grade, but you're not a failure. Like, it happens, you know. I will say, in my opinion, I prefer E over F, because I feel like F in itself just makes people feel insecure and less smart, basically. They'll feel dumb.
Pa lepo je što razmišljaju i o tome.
Yeah. I think it's very nice that some states use E instead of F, just because it makes even older people like me, like, I feel like whenever I see an F on a report card, like, I've seen them before. We've all, like, not everybody has seen them, because there are some kids who are extremely smart. But for me, like, I've seen an F on my report card before when I was much younger. And for me, that hurt me. It made me feel very dumb. I felt very stupid. But when I saw an E for the first time, this was when I moved to Maryland, on the East Coast. I saw an E for the first time and I was like, oh, that's not that bad. I'll be fine. Like, I'll get over it. Like, it didn't hurt me as much because I didn't feel like, oh, it's a failure, you know? So, yeah.
Koji je tvoj savet na osnovu tvog iskustva? Da li bi ti preporučila studije u Americi nekome ko je, recimo, iz našeg regiona?
If there's anybody who wants to go to school in America, like, yes, it's expensive, but, like, you know, I feel like if it's for your education, like, it's worth it, because it's a matter of you wanting to do something amazing with your own life, wanting to be successful. And that's not to say that universities in other countries are bad. Like, no, of course not. I know that there are plenty of universities all around the world that, like, literally make American universities look like garbage, you know? Like, there are so many good universities all over the world, but if there are people who want to, like, come from foreign countries to America to study, I think it's worth it. It's a great thing to do, because there are so many great colleges and universities in America. Like, for example, I really do enjoy my own, George Mason University. And I feel like, you know, even though, like, it might be hard for some foreign exchange students to find scholarships or stuff like that. Like, there are so many scholarships that are offered at schools, so many more than people realize. There are scholarships for, like, everything. So if you just take the time to go online and look for those scholarships, I'm sure you're going to find something that applies to you, and you will end up saving a lot of money to be able to go to the school of your dreams if you want. And, like, I feel that that's very important for people to know, is that they shouldn't be discouraged by the price of schooling or the price of your education, because I feel like education technically should be priceless. It's something, if you feel like it's going to make your life successful and make you happy and satisfied with your life, you should do it, no matter how much the price may be or how much. And I think that applies to everything in life. Just if you think it's going to make you happy, if you think even not going to school is going to make you happy and you have your ideas and your plans, do it. It doesn't matter how much it costs to do it. Do it. It's going to make you happy. It's going to make you satisfied. And if it makes you successful, then that's the end goal, right? So, yeah.
Ako neko odluči da studira u Americi, kako da izabere najbolji fakultet za sebe, pošto ih ima zaista mnogo?
Oh, that's a good question. The way that you want to pick your school, first, do research. Do your research. Make sure you find the schools that show your interests the most, or that, like, at least, like, it doesn't have to be a private school, because there are some state universities that they have much better programs than other schools. So, like, there are some colleges that will offer majorly psychology courses, or majorly math courses, or majorly English courses, and you want to try and find the school that offers the majority of what you're learning, essentially, like what your subject is. You want to find a school that offers that as like its priority subject, basically. There are lots of schools that just have different priorities, essentially. So for example, my university, George Mason, they have the #1 criminal justice curriculum in the entirety of my state of Virginia. So basically, if you want to learn anything about criminal justice and about being in the law or being a policeman or being in some form of, government official of something like that, my school would be your choice. That would be one of the best places to go because it's literally known for its criminal justice curriculum. So it's things like that. So if you want to find a school that's known for its law curriculum, then find, and you want to pursue law, then go to that school, because they're still going to be, those colleges are still going to do other subjects as well. Like they're going to cover other subjects, like mine obviously covers psychology as well, but they will always have that one specific subject that they are prioritizing, or they have a key, great curriculum for. So I think research is your biggest thing. Just going online and looking up the best state colleges that, do whatever subject it is that you do. And then the next thing would also be to find your scholarships. Find as many scholarships as you can that apply to you, and see what colleges will accept those scholarships, because of course some colleges won't accept all scholarships. So it's definitely, your best bet is just finding the college that's best suited to your subject, or finding a college that just appeals to you the most, and then finding the colleges that accept the scholarships that you end up being able to find for yourself that would apply to you. So, yeah.
Talija, sad imam jedno vrlo, vrlo ozbiljno pitanje. U američkim filmovima možemo da vidimo na univerzitetima u Americi razna udruženja studenata i studentkinja. Oni se bave uvek sportom, idu na razna takmičenja, prave lude žurke. Zanima me da li je zaista tako dobro kao u filmovima?
Pa da budem iskreno, da, jeste kao na filmu, znači to je skroz kao na filmu. Imaš fraternities i onda imaš kao, naravno, sisterhoods isto, zaboravila sam, da budem iskrena. Ja sam iz Amerike i zaboravila sam kako se sisterhood zove. Ima ime baš, zato što brotherhood ti je fraternity, a sisterhood isto ima ime, ali potpuno sam zaboravila. Ali znači oni ti imaju kao one grčke kao slove.
Aha, slova.
Koji su kao znakovi za njihove fraternity ili sisterhood, kako god. Ako ti želiš da ideš na neki fraternity žurka ili šta god, to će da ti bude skroz kao u film. Znači, svi pije pive, uživaju, praviju najveći žurku što možeš ikad vidjeti u životu. Muzika da ti probuši uši, znači, skočiju gore, dole, levo, desno, od krova ili od stola ili šta god, sve što vidiš na Instagram ili u filmove ili na social media, onako na TikToka od ljudi koji su ludi i radiju najveće gluposti što si ikad vidjela, znači to stvarno postoji. Ako ti si baš takav osoba da voliš da budeš u takvom kao environment, ja bih rekla, idi probaj da budeš u te fraternity ili sisterhood, zato što, znači, kad sam ja u školu, ja stalno vidim da oni kao, they're asking for people to come join them. They're always having big posters and they always hand stuff out and they're always like wanting to bring more sisters or bring more brothers in, you know, and it's I think it's a really great thing because it helps to build that community I was talking about earlier within like the system of the school. It's really nice to see how they all like function together as like they all become very close and very tight knit as a community. And I think it also applies a lot with sports because they all love just school spirit and being a part of their school and promoting their school, especially like football games, soccer games, even like basketball, like volleyball, really any sport that you can think of, like, you know, the school will most likely be supporting it and most likely have all the different fraternities and sisterhoods just together, like celebrating the school spirit and like celebrating their teams and cheering for their teams. And I think that's really cool.
Sorority.
I love how I'm from America and I completely forgot the word sorority. Yes, sisterhood is sorority because they call themselves sorority sisters. And then, of course, like fraternity brothers. So yeah, but that's basically how like that works. I myself never wanted to join a sorority, and that's not to say that, and it's funny considering I'm such a social person. I remember when I was younger, I used to like dream about being in a sorority because I remembered seeing them in movies or seeing them on TV shows and stuff, and then being jealous and being like, I want to be in a sorority when I'm older. I want to be able to be around a bunch of cool girls and go to a bunch of parties and just have fun. But then when I got older, I realized that even though I am that very social person, I'm not a sorority type of person necessarily. I feel like I'm not the type of person that wants to like belong to a name of some kind. I like to explore my surroundings. I like to explore everyone and every community that's around me, because I mean, with also me wanting to be a psychologist and wanting to be a therapist, I want to work with communities and with people who are less fortunate, because the way to make changes for like everything in life on a bigger scale is by working with smaller communities, by working with the smaller groups of people, because when you work with the smaller groups of people, you get to connect them with more small groups of people, and then that's how they create the bigger groups of people that work together. And that's what I love about fraternities and the sororities as well, though. I mean, I don't want to belong to one, but I do love seeing the different groups of them all coming together as that one community that should exist, of course. So, yeah.
Talija, mnogo ti hvala na razgovoru i želim ti sve najlepše u daljem školovanju, na masteru i u karijeri.
Hvala i tebi puno, Mari. Baš mi je drago da sam mogla da dolazim i da budem s tobom tu i da pričam s tobom. Bilo mi je baš zabavno i više zabavno nego što sam mislila. Bila sam malo onako nervozna na početku, ali baš mi je bio odlično.
Hvala ti mnogo, Talija, meni je bilo divno sa tobom. Dragi slušalci i gledaoci, hvala vam što ste pratili još jedan Sotirov podcast. Vidimo se u narednoj emisiji. Ćao!